Welcome back, everybody, to the SMITE 2 Founders Series. We are in the Swiss abyss, if you will, here. Week number 5. We're in round number 5 of Swiss Gormizer. My name is Jorby, and we are about to get started here. Remember, if you're in Twitch chat, type in exclamation point access to get access to SMITE 2, and you can play. Your friends can play. You got to follow that link after you type it in. Type in SMITE 2 Esports, enter that code. You can get a key. We'd love to have you playing SMITE 2 with the rest of us.
Yeah, no, especially like right now, it's an exciting time to be getting in. New gods are coming in. We just learned yesterday that Raw is going to be on the horizon. So, like,
Let's
if you're going
go.
to be getting into Smite 2, like, the time to do it was probably like a month and a half ago, but now's the best time to do it that you can still are capable of doing, unless you happen to have a time machine somewhere in your back pocket, in which case there's a lot of other things that you could be doing, but playing Smite 2 should be at the top of the list.
I mean, look, Dan Zalbaro and Hercules are also in the game now. And like,
Yeah.
look, if Hercules is in the game, come on, that's a grand slam. Let's go, baby. So get in there, exclamation point access, get access to the game. But we got some Smite to get to. We got some teams to decide on moving
Mhm.
over to the next stage of the Founder Series Gormizer. So let's take a look at the bracket. We will take a look at both regions. We start with EMEA, of course. And as we can see, the Swiss has gone, I think, mostly to expectation. We're left with these 6 teams here in round number 5. Smoke Break versus Titans Reloaded. We'll have that one up first. Later up, we will have Bills Goons versus Discípulos del Chaos. I think we got that right. And Tythonic versus Threat Level Midnight. So, which match here, Gore, are you looking at in EMEA? Which one excites you the most here in round 5?
So I'm gonna answer with two, even though that's not necessarily really like kind to the question, but it's for different reasons, right? Where I think like Bill's Goons, and DDK, or maybe even Tythonic and Threat Level Midnight, like those two feel like they're going to be closer in terms of the matchup quality, right? So I'm excited to see what those are going to be like, just because it does feel like literally anything could happen. I'm also excited for this very first one, the Smoke Break versus Titans Reloaded, mainly because I'm surprised that Smoke Break is still here, and so I'm really interested to see what they have to offer this week.
Yeah, Smoke Break, they had a tougher back half of this Swiss, having to play Team Risk and Mockingbird. Mockingbird getting them in 2-0. But let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule for today, so you guys know who is playing, when they are playing. We do start with Smoke Break versus Titans Reloaded. We'll be hopping right into that game here in a couple of minutes, going over to Bills Goons versus Discípulos del Chaos. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong on that. Tythonic versus Threat Level Midnight to close out the day. Over on that's on Sunday, excuse me. We move over to the NA matches because we do one of the NA. My brain going vertical, but you got to go horizontal over to Name and Progress versus First Name Zach. So we got 2 EMEA matches to start the day. And then we end with an NA match, Name and Progress versus First Name Zach. So excited to bring you guys all of those. But heading right into our first match of the day, the picks and bans, we will be getting into Smoke Break versus Titans Reloaded. And Smoke Break,
Mhm.
again, we talked about their Swiss run a little bit, but had it pretty decent run, right? With those first 2 wins, you start out 2-0, and then you have to play against Team Risk, which nobody has really been able to do anything against, and Mockingbird, which may have been winnable for them, but obviously not even taking a game win against them. So going up against Titans Reloaded, though, what do you make about Titans Reloaded on the other side, Gore?
Well, so this is where it gets really awkward, because I was also on the Mockingbird Smoke Break set last week, and I expected that to probably go 3 or to be a 2-0 in favor of Smoke Break, right? Like they typically, and in history as players, are the kind of team that would roll over their opposition, especially in EMEA. Outside of maybe Team Risk and Giovanni Giorgio, I would have given them the leg up on pretty much every other team. And so, knowing that last week kind of caught me by surprise, and there were a few names that I already recognized on Mockingbird that I know have that capability, I'm a little cautious. Like I'm not necessarily favoring Titans Reloaded just yet, but I think this is going to be one of their best chances. Something about the patches Smokebreak just hasn't been able to get a grasp on.
Well, we are going to move right into the picks and bans and get right into it. So at this stage, I'm curious what we are going to see. So Baron has pretty much been an auto ban almost every single time,
Yeah.
but actually in that Smoke Break Mockingbird matchup, they did have I silenced on that Baron Samedi. They weren't able to beat Mockingbird in that game. So what do you kind of anticipate as far as the mock-ups and the team composition, Gore?
Well, so and this is where it does get a little awkward, and this has been EMEA maybe as a whole, but very specific players as well. Like Ice Ice actually comes to my mind, which is not on either of these teams. Tythonic will be playing a little bit later, but a few players who have been like prioritizing an Athena first pick and then throwing her into the jungle, and sometimes that's worked out incredibly well. Sometimes it's left me wanting a little bit more. I'm wondering, like you said, with Baron, I feel like kind of falling down the ladder in terms of priority. I feel like over the first couple of weeks, it was an instant ban every time, and then slowly but surely, and maybe honestly, I'd have to look it up. You might have it more accessible than me. I'm pretty sure it's been smoke break sets that he's been let through the most. Silence didn't necessarily look great on it, right? But admittedly, when you're losing as a support, no matter what, it's going to be difficult to look good. So I wouldn't mind seeing him do something more akin to what they're doing here. Even with Baron available, I don't know if he's going to be the highest priority. Instead, focused on picks like the Amaterasu that give you a little bit of dive, give you some good CC, give you a lot of capabilities around a team fight, while also being able to maintain your own lane. And you don't really have too much to worry about. She's flexible in that if you really want to, you could probably run her in other roles, though mostly we've been seeing her go solo. I also think this fits a little bit better. I was going to mention, Benko, as well as a few others, have been playing Bellona. And while I personally am a Bellona lover, I think like she's one of my favorite god kits in the game. She's one of my favorite gods in general. I don't know that she has a place in the meta right now. And so as much as I love seeing her, I prefer this for Smoke Break.
I mean, Amaterasu seems to be getting changes pretty frequently too, and she's still getting heavily picked. So I think it probably take a lot more as far as results go to where she stops working that you'll see teams go away from her. But as far as like those bans go, they don't like Hecate at all. Smoke Break don't. The Anubis Fenrir for Titans Reloaded, something that they've picked a couple of times so far in the tournament. Not surprised to see that, but also that Jing Wei ban. Now you got the next few picks coming up here for Smoke Break. They also have picked actually heavily into Anubis, so Anubis off the table for them. Could see maybe an ADC pick here, or what do you expect from these next two picks?
Honestly, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, with Jing Wei off the table, it becomes a little weird because you have to figure out where you're going. I mean, Neath has definitely been one of the top picks and priorities for a good reason, right? Global presence, you have a lot of damage, good clear, survivability is going to be there.
Cardinals just got buffed too, right?
Yeah, that's actually something that would be interesting to see. I still, and admittedly, this is the difference of what we're going to see in the update and what's changed enough. Like, has Kern changed enough to make him a higher priority is really the question to be answered. I actually think he's still pretty good. And honestly, with this team comp, like Ares Ama, you have a lot that you could play off of, and he's got good team fight abilities, that this actually wouldn't be bad. You just might be relegating yourself to a little bit later in the game, but realistically, I think you'd be fine to pick him here. I just don't know if he's as high priority as maybe, I guess you don't really need a mid laner because they have Anubis. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna grab him, maybe it's now the time, but I love this. Jungle, right? Lock in a Loki, lock in an Ares. You get a little bit of that team fight, and I actually love, again, Ares more than anything, especially against a Fenrir. Having the lockdown, having the ability to completely remove a lot of the survivability that Fenrir brings into the table, as well as some of his engage, forcing him to use his ult or force him into a beads. Like, there's a lot of things that the Ares brings that really forces the Fenrir to have to play around, which means that Titans Reloaded aren't going to be able to just kind of run away because they got one of the strongest picks in the game.
So how do you, like, the Loki pick up a lot of play into the team fight, right? With the Ares Ama duo is nasty on that, even without the Loki. So like, how do you counterplay into that in these picks if you're Titans Reloaded?
Honestly, Loki is very difficult to play into, period, because it feels like late game, as long as he gets the 1v1 and as long as he's not like 3 levels behind, he's going to be doing really well. The good news is Fenrir can track him down, right? If you get a brutalize, you're going to be able to hit him throughout the stealth. And the other really big thing about it is going to be more, and maybe less in the team fight phase, although I think I prefer Fenrir as like a team fighter as opposed to just, hey, go back there and pick that guy like Loki would. because he has that pickup, he has the ability to just kind of select one person on Smoke Break and pull him to the back. I think the biggest thing that Titans Reloaded are going to have to do is keep pace with Johnny, or maybe even vice versa, depends on the kind of day Johnny's having, but being able to match those rotations, right? You've got an incredibly mobile god in this Fenrir, and so you don't want to be the one who's having to play catch up. You don't want to be seeing Johnny show up in left, get a kill, and then he shows up in mid and he gets a kill, and then he shows up in right and he gets a kill. Like, you want to be sure that you're on top of those, and either matching the rotations, or if you see him show up in left, then you're matching him and showing up in right, and trying to kind of equalize the pressure all around, or you're finding some of those invades. So I want to see what this Fenrir is doing to stay all around the map. The thing that's now throwing me off, though, and this is maybe call it like a burned oven response, right? Athena's been played in the jungle a lot in EMEA, and Fenrir is a good support as well. I could also see these kind of flopping, and the jungle discussion changes a lot if it's an Athena versus if it's a Fenrir.
Yeah, the Fenrir support is carried over both of those games, right? But the on her getting picked and leaving a lot of options on the other side as well. I'm curious if we will see Kern with the buffs that he's gotten, but not just Kern. ADCs across the board have gotten that attack speed buff. So Neith will get locked in, like you were talking about before. Neith is basically almost an auto pick for a lot of teams. So it makes sense that she gets picked up right away here and waiting to flesh out the rest of this composition. But you like what you're seeing on Smoke Break? It sounds like you're a big fan of the comp you're seeing right now.
Yeah, I think as far as like if you were just having a discussion of running like the tier list, right? I don't think you've necessarily made any bad picks. I think in your ideal world, maybe you get the Fenrir, but honestly, Johnny's favored Loki in the past. So out of that kind of level of play and maybe comfort, I love everything that Smoke Break has. I think Ama and Ares as a frontline, you get to direct your fights. You have the engage. You also have really good counter engage. I mean, the peel that this team has, Ama can use her ult both aggressively and defensively. Same thing goes for Ares, but realistically, the chains, being able to either select someone to die or select someone to stop chasing your carries, it just feels really good as long as you're hitting those. And it gives a little bit of autonomy to the Loki, right? You're not relying too heavily on your jungler to be present in the fight. You can kind of let him do his own thing. Let Ama, Ares, Neith, and now this Baron kind of work together. There's a lot of CC, a lot of control, a lot of capabilities to choose a fight. And again, that goes both ways, whether the fight came to you and you choose no, or if you say, you know what, actually we want to fight here. I think they have just a lot of openings to just create those scenarios for themselves.
Which is interesting because Titans Reloaded's comp feels like it's much more reliant on getting the correct setup, on getting having the right environment for it. So while Smoke Break, you can kind of pick and choose the fights that you want, right? Like things kind of have to line up correctly so that you can get those setups right. Play off of a wrap, play off of a pillar stun. But like you said, having the Ares there to help kind of counter the Fenrir on, especially the engages, if you can neutralize his ultimate and being just an escape to have to avoid some of those team fights. Titans Reloaded, I'm curious to see how they can make those setups work. But if you do have that Athena in the jungle, that can help a lot of your setup potential. So I'm curious. You got more in terms of like those the individual setups for Smoke Break, to where picking and choosing your fights. But Titans Reloaded, do you feel like those setups will kind of put them behind, or depending on where they put this Athena?
Honestly, I think a lot of it depends on the Athena, and I'm going to lean heavily into that because I think Odin, he was one of the most picked power picks, top gods for over a month at this point, and it's for good reason, right? The cage is really, really helpful in the middle of a team fight. Pretty much anything I think that can change the geography of the jungle in your favor is always helpful. That's why I'm a big Ymir fan as well. Like once you get the walls unlocked, it just feels like you've leveled up to beyond the gameplay. Odin also has a lot of damage, has some good CC. So I like him as a frontline. On her and Anubis, when I look at those two, they're pretty much run-of-the-mill. Anubis is going to do a lot of good burn damage. It's going to be, hey, I'm going to wrap, I'm going to throw my 3 down, and I'm going to laser you. And then if you're not dead, we have some problems afterward. Otherwise, we should be able to rely on it. On her's run-of-the-mill, it's just where Fenrir and Athena go that change up this comp for me.
Well, we have the picks, we have the bans, and we have the match ready for it. So let's get right into it. Round 5 of Swiss. Both of these teams have had an interesting journey throughout this gore.
And it's so weird to say. I'm relieved, I think, to see Fenrir jungle, Athena support. It's always the balance, and I guess now I can actually talk about it, which is that when Athena's in the jungle, you're not getting the same impact from like a Loki, from a Fenrir that you would get. I might have to hold that thought though, because this is walking right into the trap.
Oh God! Well, you just ran into the grass, and a little more than a couple of ticks in there. You ran into almost the entire team. That's not what you wanted your invade to look like. You got caught out big time there.
That the speed that Titans Reloaded got there, by the way, like that's what's really crazy to me.
They rushed it.
For all of them, yeah. I mean, to insta-buy, get there, have the damage, be ready, and then still back. I mean, of course, at that point, you have plenty of time now before the game actually kicks off and minions are marching, so you're not too worried about it. But, I mean, that is impressive to be there. And you get it onto a good target as well. I think the Anubis getting the first blood, a little bit of pressure over a Baron who we've seen kind of dominating picks and bans. Also on a God that is going to suffer at least a little bit against a Loki because of the lack of really fast mobility. I think this is a really good scenario for Titans Reloaded to put themselves in, and it's a good play, even if it does feel, I mean, I want to say classic. It just feels like a classic Smite 2 moment is using the grass to get a kill. We haven't really gotten to see those a lot lately.
I do love that kind of aggression, you know, in round 5 of Swiss, considering Titans Reloaded, their run has not been the easiest, right? You lose to Giovanni Giorgio, which fair enough, you know, most teams have. But, you know, you also lose to Tithonic, who are here in round 5, and you've had a pretty difficult run through it. And like you were kind of saying beforehand, with Smoke Break, feeling like this one should be one that they take. So you want, if you're Titans Reloaded, you want to have that kind of play early. You want to go for that early invade, try to get them off their mark a little bit, and see if you can actually, you know, get them on tilt a little early. See if you can get them to make a couple more mistakes into this. But the first 2 minutes, you know, getting that first pick establishes a little bit of confidence for you.
And realistically, and this is a big deal, Charlie talked about it a little yesterday, so I'm really just stealing it from him. The fact that you're coming in, if you're Titans Reloaded, you earned your spot here in the 5th week with a win last week, whereas Smoke Break kind of got knocked down. And so that is a pretty important distinction. Like, if you're trying to get someone kind of off kilter, the best way to do it is, hey, this team that lost, now you're also first blooded against the team you're favored against. This is the kind of way you find that control and try to drive up. Again, whether it's a gold lead, experience lead, which admittedly they should have both right now because of the first blood. I love the way that Titans Reloaded are approaching this. The thing that's really, I guess, impressive overall for Smoke Break is that after that, they really haven't been playing like anything's different. Like they have been controlling the lanes where they can. They have been finding poke wherever they can. I mean, nothing in the grand scheme is really causing too much trouble for them, outside of a little bit of experience for, I believe, solo, mid, and jungle are slightly up. Duo lane seems relatively even right now.
Yeah, they haven't really been able to push anything. Waves get cleared about even. Not feeling confident in that fight, but the stronger that Ares gets, no doubt will make that life a little more difficult. Meanwhile, rotation, and Fenrir with the brutalized does a lot of damage. Will force Benko right back under tower. Nice rotation for Titans Reloaded. Try to get back some of that XP. Like you said, very slight here at the start. Yeah. No kill, unfortunately, there for Dark.
And it's the difference of, if you hit level 5, but you're playing a risky game, can you hit 5 first? And if the answer is yes, you're going to lock him down. In fact, Listimics, after you see Benko get away, hits 5, has the ult, and it's like, man, if that cage had been there just 2 seconds earlier to catch the dash, you would have been able to stay incredibly aggressive. But I like this play as well, because you know and recognize you've got the pressure. Get into their jungle, take some of it away.
Yeah, you will get some of that farm away, and a nice push though in response here for Smoke Break. Thought they might have been able to catch them. That Neath Ares combo can be nasty with the chain into the root. You're stuck on the flames. It's a lot of pressure in that lane for sure. Kind of a bit of an ebb and flow in both of the lanes. Kind of a standoff over there in duo. In mid, you haven't seen a lot of that action, at least on the jungle side, but getting those camp steals early allows you to also win those side camps as well. Oh, you get caught here a little bit, and beadsing right out of the Fenrir ult. A little bit of trouble. You have a little bit of help, but no. Loki's gonna get out. A little bit of chase. Decide to abandon that one. Yeah, no problem. Especially with Ares right there, but it's something you never know. I've seen some dives this season, so.
And honestly, if there was gonna be a comp to do it, I think it's one that had like, because Athena, hey, I'm gonna dash forward and taunt, like that's just the 1-2, right? Like that's what you should be doing. And so there was like a small window where if Baku was able to get that last little bit of dash, that last little punch, maybe we see a taunt that kind of ruins Johnny's life afterward, but instead, like you said, he gets out free. And it does go to show, and I can go back, finally tie it together to the earlier point, which is when you have an Athena in the game, whether she's jungle or support, most of what you're getting from her is going to be the same. It's just like damage output that surrounds it that will be slightly different, but it's dash, taunt, set up for your team. Hopefully your Anubis in those scenarios hits the wrap and could find a kill. Unfortunately for ACD, this one goes a little wide, and so it doesn't quite work out that way, but that's the play. Dash, taunt, setup. That is what your goal is. Your ult is used to get around the map. Sometimes you use it with the wherewithal of like, oh, I can like mitigate damage, but it's to change numbers. It's to give your team favor. It's to put you in a position where you can then dash and taunt. It is pretty much very one note and very one-sided, whether you're in the jungle, whether you're in support, whether you're playing her solo, no matter where you put her, that's going to be her main goal. Fenrir, I feel like is very similar, but like he gets a little more done, and the damage output, like his scaling just feels so good in the jungle. I'm excited to see what Dark has to offer.
Ooh, missed the second chain, and a lot of help. We'll pop the ult as well, but I don't know if I silenced. That's exactly how you wanted to draw that up, because all three of them out. You will blink out, have a little bit of support on the back end, but everybody is here for Titans Reloaded. They want that kill, and AC will pick it up. High silence will go down, and that likely means that Neath is gone as well. See you later, E-Chrome. And how about that for Titans Reloaded? Good rotation in front. They also been poking mid pretty well against Sap. They got Sap to use his ult defensively earlier and then constantly keeping him pushed back under tower. And after those 2 kills, we'll pop the ult on the Gold Fury and we'll start to increase this gold lead that they have just gotten a little bit further. So Titans Reloaded, an excellent opening so far. And the Odin ult, they're trying to survive. As Smoke Break want a response of some sort. They won't get one.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate spot for him to be in. Losing the ult, or investing heavily, I should say, on right. But you trade, a few ults for 2 kills and a gold field. Like, for Titans Reloaded, that's pretty much everything you could have asked for and then some. I mean, the massive rotation, bringing the jungler over, having that presence. And it kind of feels like it's really made by Silenced, which isn't the way you want the fight to be if you're Smoke Break. Like, you don't want it to be starting in favor of Titans Reloaded because Silence is playing so aggressive. And losing the support, it's not the end of the world. In fact, if anything, kind of lucky for Silence to get taken back and way. And that was a close call. Yeah, I can't believe they get out of that, honestly.
Just watching her health bar melt there, I was like, oh no.
The true nightmare when you're playing Athena is watching that happen to yourself and knowing there's nothing more you can do about it other than pray that the timer goes off. But for Silence, it's almost favorable that you get dragged under the tower just because you create a little more space between you and E-Chrome. Unfortunately, there were 4 people, and so there's only so much you can do in those kind of scenarios when you have that big of a rotation. And I think Smoke Break read it the way it is. Johnny's not on that side of the map. There's not much you could do if you go to that side of the map against 4. And so you just have to let the gold here.
Well, Fenrir came on the other side, but it's not going to really result in anything. Fenrir ult right out. And that was almost a play there. Neath had flashed the ult at the start of that fight. When they hit in the grass, they immediately knew that gag's coming in. Pull the Ares off. Fenrir rotates in. Just could not actually get anything going there. Ended up getting forced out of that fight and getting caught out immediately. AC gets knocked out. Johnny will confirm the kill, and Smoke Break start to find a couple of picks that actually go their way, but all of a sudden you run into the Fenrir, and Dark wants that kill. Has it? No! We'll get just away from it. Ran into Baron Samedi. Uh-oh, that's dangerous. Just with a little bit of help. No, you're gone. Sap converts the kill. Dark goes down, and wow, Smoke Break turned that one around big time.
I mean, and there's so many things, like, just small things that feel they go well. Admittedly, I don't think that should work the way that it did for Smoke Break. I feel like Johnny probably should have died for again, maybe the positioning, trying to play aggressive, going deep into the jungle, caught out by the Fenrir, and it showcases, again, how Fenrir can chase him down, but the ult time for Johnny, ulting away from the jump to avoid getting killed is massive.
Benko, wow, okay. Just denied anything there. Aggressive, looking for those jungle camps, and, well, you die for your efforts. And Titans Reloaded. Much more you could say about how it has started for them. Strong start, but actually the gold lead has diminished a little bit. They were up about 2K. That is diminished quickly. Easy to come back from that. And that's the tough part here for Titans Reloaded. You're making some good early plays. You're catching Smoke Break on a couple of rotations that haven't worked out for them. I actually really love how Titans Reloaded have rotated in this game. An ult gets beadsed out, and Dark just not finding the effectiveness with that ultimate. Still getting a lot of value elsewhere in his kit and in his rotations. Has looked pretty solid, but the more he gets stuffed out, the more you start getting worried about if these rotations are going to work. Meanwhile, ult popped again, looking, and will get the grab, but beadsed immediately. Sap has been harassed all game, but has been handling it pretty well. The fact you've only dropped really once, with a lot of the rotations pushing you back under tower. Not a bad look for Smoke Break. They've been able to keep it close, despite what have been good map control overall from Titans Reloaded.
And realistically, it's like you say, you look up at the gold count, you see like the farm game, and it's kind of impressive that Titans Reloaded, I mean, with First Blood, with 3 kills up at one point, and the Gold Fury, are really just barely ahead at this point, and this fight could be the thing that changes the pace.
A little bit of trouble. You'll only pull one with the chains, and an easy leap out for Dark. Not a ton of health. Everybody gets out. Johnny will take down Ragna, and another runaway here. Smoke Break looking for those picks. A fight over towards Gold Fury. Maybe looking for that steal. Odin certainly has the burst to get it done. Shielded pop, still holding on to the leap, and Gold Fury does drop. Titans Reloaded end up getting it. And now the Smoke Break hoping to get something out of this. They will pick up Baku. Sap getting that kill. Is that all they're going to get? They can wipe a few more off the table. They can even up that Gold Fury that they were able to get. AC also goes down. Dark looking really dead. And there you go. Johnny picks up the kill on Dark. So what a response here from Smoke Break after losing that Gold Fury to Titans Reloaded. They're able to get a couple of kills, even up that gold, but you just can't avoid as Lestemix will pick up the kill on Sap real deep there.
Yeah, Sap dying takes back a little bit of what I was going to say, so it's not the overall overwhelming victory for Smoke Break as it could have been. Again, losing the Gold Fury definitely hurts as well. What could have been, I mean, after a fight like that, if you get the Gold Fury as well, probably a 2,500 gold lead in your favor. Instead, you're still technically trailing. But when you add in the kill on Ragna, you got a 4-for-1 trade with Fury. Like, it becomes really, really clear. Or, sorry, with Fury still going the other way to Titans Reloaded. So, like, realistically, like, the scales pretty much even out at the end of that. I mean, it feels like it goes, you know, slightly in favor of Smoke Break because of the time spent on map. So it depends on what Titans Reloaded do, and you mentioned it. They've just been all over the map in terms of aggression.
Here comes the ult. They want to keep that aggression up. Dark chasing with it. Early beads pop there, but the taunt comes out a little after. Now you get Fen ulted, and that's going to be it for you, eChrome. You got absolutely diced up there, and nothing Eye Silence could do to save you.
Yeah, there's very little, and look, scenarios like that, especially when you're a Neath, this is going to be the true, you can pretty much copy paste it for Neath, Baron, and the Anubis this game. With Neath getting maybe a slightly bit more of favor because of the fact that backflip is at least somewhat decent to get away, but if you're caught in a position like that against anywhere between 3 and 5 people, you're not getting out, and if you do, then they messed up. Like it should be a surefire kill, and that's just the unfortunate scenario for eChrome is you got to chase the farm where you can. Sometimes it's going to cost you.
iSilence got caught looking for a little too long. He got isolated and will actually get taken out. It almost happened on 2 sections of the map. Near mid, 2 players from Smokebreak almost got isolated. iSilence did get punished for it, and some of these plays for Smokebreak, while they've been able to keep things close despite losing, the objectives, despite losing some of that map control, the fights have looked okay. But that's not even the first time that they've gotten isolated. Now the fight over towards the Naga. It will go again to Titans Reloaded. They continue the dominance there. Ult dropped for Sap, but will they actually get something out of this? Dark pops the ult. Athena comes in to save the day as well. So no picks this time for Smokebreak. They kind of get forced out of it again. Willing to try to push them back here over on that duo side. But in solo, it's again Titans Reloaded. Being able to push them back. That fight has been a little more even there in that solo. And may come down to those rotations. Smokebreak, those picks do keep you in the game. Granted, you're talking about a 2K gold lead now, and while that's not a lot, sure, it's a slow burn as far as getting that gold lead goes. And you had to pop an ult there for the stun. Dark has actually gotten so much value. Brutalized, but taking a ton of damage. Not enough to get it done. Odin comes in. Ragna will get the kill on Sap, and that's not the rotation they were hoping for. So Titans Reloaded get another one. Team fights belong to them.
Not only that, I feel like you get the kill where you maybe need it most if you're Titans Reloaded. Ragna finally getting on the board, finally feeling like, I'm going to say impactful. I haven't seen too much out of the on her outside of the respawn and come in and ult to kill Sap earlier. This is a good spot to really start hitting your level 15. This is about the time I expect to see the carries a little bit more anyway. And that's just a good presence. You've got a good team around you, not just the pillar, but being able to stun against like Odin Cage, things like that. It means that you have a lot of opportunity if Listimix rotates over to your lane. And it's just going to be about keeping a level head. The pressure in this map and in this lane specifically has been against the on her. But now in the late game, especially in little 1v1s, but more realistically, anytime that you are able to get just a slight bit of setup, I feel like this is where we're going to get to see the on her truly shine, whereas Neath, just now finishing stacks, still going for like a pretty heavy burst build. You're going to need to be in the team fight for that. I think on her is going to control a lot of the lane outside of just team fights. As long as you are in a 1v1 scenario. Anytime the numbers get mixed up, maybe not so much.
That's where I think like Dark has done a really good job like applying support on that pressure in duo lanes. While the on her might not have gotten the maximum value you're hoping for early on. You get those rotations and well, Ares ult not getting the value they were hoping for, but actually gets the stun on him. Johnny takes down Baku, and this is the best fight that Smokebreak have had so far. Just hitting another one, and Smokebreak want to push the issue even further. There's 3 off the table. The Titans Reloaded. The first 15 minutes of this game squarely in Titans Reloaded's hand for sure, but that gold lead, they weren't able to really snowball it because of those picks that Smokebreak had found early on, and look what another team fight gets them. Under 1K gold lead now, you're going to get this mid tower down, you're going to go ahead and get this Pyromancer, and everything's looking pretty good right now for Smokebreak after that 15-minute mark, but make sure you actually get it. You got to force Odin out, and they will force it out and pick it up. There you go. Pyromancer goes to Smokebreak, and that will make it an even gold lead.
The thing overall, the last couple of minutes, and I want to highlight it because now it's actually a slight lead, but the fact that gold is even, despite losing 3 Furies to Titans Reloaded, I think if anything speaks to Smokebreak's tenacity more than whatever the numbers could do. And a lot of it you'll actually see is manifesting in the jungle. Johnny's up 3 levels. Like Johnny, despite the fact that maybe we haven't seen as much like massive game-changing plays from the Loki, he's 4-0-3. He's 3 levels up. He's going to have a whole slew of gold in his pocket. His net worth, again, a little bit higher than what you're seeing out of Dark. And while Dark has been making, I think, very meaningful rotations, Johnny has been using that to, cultivate 1,000 gold over the Finner, to cultivate, steals. He's been spending a lot of time in Titans Reloaded jungle, and he's slowly been picking up kills, throughout these little fights, these little skirmishes around the Fury. So even though you're losing maybe the thing that could be allowing you in the Gold Fury to win so heavily that it's not even close, the fact that you've kept it close, and in some cases, I guess, in this ahead, is just impressive.
That's the thing. You've accounted for 4,500 gold that was taken off the table for you. That does not, that does not bode well for Titans Reloaded the later we get into this game. Loki does a ton of damage, and wow. Baku barely gets out with his life, and they want it. Sap trying for the ult to pull them in. You're not going to get it. But still, Smokebreak starting to apply some of that pressure. You've got that tier 1 on the left side, on the duo side, excuse me, almost taken completely down. And Benko, big chilling on the leveling up, almost max level already. And, well, actually just hit level 20 off that camp.
Yeah.
So, might see some more of those rotations coming in, and once the Amaterasu gets involved, especially since Smokebreak have done the job of keeping this one close in the economy, you might be in a little trouble if your Titans Reloaded. If you can win this team fight, though, it could swing things right back for you. Ragna confirms right onto Sap. Another fight towards the Gold Fury. And just to try to create a little bit of separation. You're not going to get much of it, though. And that will likely give the Fury back over to Titans Reloaded, who continue to win the objectives on the map. But that's been the story so far. It's been the objectives versus the team fights and that pressure. And Titans Reloaded, while you have that map control, you certainly have not been able to lock down Smokebreak completely here.
Yeah, I feel like Smokebreak, again, despite things, I feel like almost always, every time they go well, and maybe this is a caster's curse, where every single time something goes well for them, and it gets mentioned almost immediately after there's a fight that goes just a little wide, and yet they're still not even losing that hard. Like, it's it's so ridiculous how well this team is holding on to this game. And that's a little bit of why, when you look back towards last week, seeing Mockingbird find the 2-0, like, that was very impressive against Smokebreak. It's not something that's easy to do. These players have a lot of history playing Smite in general, and playing Smite 2 incredibly well, so farming and keeping on top of things like this usually go their way. It's just little moments like we might see in a second, where it's small picks that you can find potentially if Johnny decides to go for something. But it's these little plays where, hey, you know what? Sap's getting caught out because they went for a jungle invade. Or, hey, you know what? We're going to invest a second kill into Benko over on the right-hand side of the map. Just because they can if you're Titans Reloaded. But when you look at, like, the state of the map, and you look at, as you have mentioned, like, gold leads, things like that, like, Smokebreak are not falling behind, and in most cases are maybe even controlling
like
a lot of their lanes. Yeah, I would say, like, a lot of the game is still in their favor. Admittedly, now that we're in the, past the 20-minute mark, tier 1 towers and the fact that they're healthy on the side of Smokebreak for a few of them isn't as big a deal, because they get taken down so quickly the minute that Ragna or anyone like that shows up. But it is something to be worth noting, that despite a kill lead, even though it's only one, despite a gold lead, despite the fact that they've gotten every single Fury that has existed in this game so far, Titans Reloaded are not as far ahead as they really should be.
It doesn't really feel like they were ahead or in control. It feels like they're kind of winning in spurts. But in the in-betweens, in the little fights, that's where you start thinking, like, wait, you guys actually have this. And kind of a crazy dichotomy in this game, because usually you see objective control, and the tower control follows right after that. But I mean, you're absolutely right. The little bit of poke, you might, now that they've had such dominance on that Gold Fury, they might start targeting those towers a little bit more if they keep winning those team fights in the jungle. But it hasn't necessarily gone their way. You haven't had the Amaterasu really get fully involved yet, but Benko is lurking around this mid lane, looking at Pyromancer, maybe hoping to get a little bit of support. The team's coming right behind. Benko will get things started on his own. Very tanky here, the level 20, pops the ult, and oh my god, Sap came in to assist it. Baku goes down, and huge team fight on the Pyromancer, slowly but surely going Smoke Break's way. Nice isolated one, but no, there's a full retreat here for Titans Reloaded.
And realistically, what can you do? You're in a 3v5. I mean, I want to see them make a play for this. I feel like this game has been so close. You could go for a steal, but it's going to be dangerous.
I feel like they might have to not just give away the Fire Giant, which will undoubtedly make life really difficult. Defending on those tier 2s, E-Chrome taking down Icy, and well, that will definitely make things difficult, as that should give full control of the Fire Giant to Smoke Break. So despite being able to control those jungle objectives early, the big one that you have to control goes the way of Smoke Break. They'll try to get Sap off the table. He won't have that Fire Giant buff anymore. Won't be able to get out, so at least pick up a pick for your woes, but that's all Titans Reloaded are going to get there.
Yeah, and honestly, the fact that you're able to get that pick does set back a little bit, right? If you're having this conversation about what can you do to make it so you're not about to get rolled over, there's a couple of targets I would have preferred, but realistically, I don't know if beggars can be choosers in this kind of situation. If you're Titans Reloaded,
whoever's isolated is isolated, right?
Yeah, you're just taking whatever wins that you can, and it's also just so difficult, right? Once Fire Giant goes down, it's so hard to choose your battles, and I think even in moments like this Gold Fury, even in I would say, what, a 2v5, it's not as guaranteed as you would think if you're Titans Reloaded. Admittedly, they don't have all 5 over here yet, but it's something that you have to be worried about. Like, just the presence of Johnny alone can change a lot of these fights. The Ares stepping forward really can dictate a completely different team fight. And the downside around that Fire Giant, maybe we hold that thought, a double taunt, they're going in for the fight.
Oh, actually popped the beads on it as well. Silence wants a little bit more. Pops the ult. I pulled you after the beads. Good night, Dark. Deleted. Sap gets that kill. Odin hoping to zone them out with the ult, and that's exactly what will happen there. Zone them out, but it will give the Fury back over to Smoke Break. And, you know, Gore, we were kind of talking about that ebb and flow and how it felt like Smoke Break, Titans Reloaded, letting them hang around, right? Sure, you know, on the, what was it, the second Gold Fury that Titans Reloaded got, then 4 of them died, and almost making the Gold Fury completely irrelevant in that fight. And then in the other fights, the small wins that you saw from Johnny and others. I mean, Johnny has not been locked down at all by Titans Reloaded. They haven't really had an answer for him. And maybe we'll catch Benko a little bit, but Benko has the ult and will dash right out. That's the tough part with Amaterasu, being able to actually lock her down just so much as far as the protections and the ability to escape. Not going to be able to lock it down easily, and this one slowly but surely starting to roll in Smoke Break's direction.
Yeah, the mobility and capabilities that you have as an AMA, that's one of the reasons I'm really happy they first picked it. It's like, this god needs to have a big performance. And if you look at it and just see, oh, 0-2, that doesn't seem great. The 7, I think, is very important. But again, the presence on the map, right? Those 2 kills were like early ganks. Since then, Titans Reloaded weren't really able to do much about Benko. Maybe they could show face, but Benko either dashed away or, in some of these cases, has turned the fight around on them, and that is where it gets not only a lot of utility, but just dangerous as a pick. And I think that's one of the things I love about the AMA in terms of turning this aggression around. I also expect that we haven't really gotten to see as much, right? Once the ult comes back up, which it will be in a few seconds, you can start to look to maybe make more aggressive plays. Again, the dive capabilities you have between Benko and Silence. At tier 2 isn't that far out of the question. Maybe with the, you know, Fire Giant timer like slowly whittling down, you might be rethinking it if you're Smoke Break, but this has really been, I guess, the last like 7 minutes of gameplay for them. Just incredibly clean, well calculated. They know where they're trying to put their pressure. And unfortunately for Titans Reloaded, I mean, like you said, they haven't been able to catch up in some of the places where they really, really need to. And the jungle may be the biggest one of all. I mean, 4-0 and 5 for Johnny is huge.
I mean, and right now, unless you can really focus your burst for Titans Reloaded, I don't know where you start winning some of these team fights, because every time you try to engage, there's just so much you have to deal with, right? The Ares chains come out, and not even the ult and the forces of beads popped out early. I have to dive out of that fight. Then Amaterasu comes in. Oh, by the way, she has ult. Okay, well, what do I do about this? Now I'm getting stunned out. And the only thing you really have to escape is you have a defensive Odin ult, which Listemix has had to do in the last 2 team fights. And that's not where you want to be when you're playing Odin. You want to be able to use that cage to isolate, but having to constantly be on the retreat really makes it difficult in these team fights. Looks like another Pyromancer will fall to Smokebreak, and the longer we go, the more it looks like Smokebreak will end up winning this. Even getting the on her pillar stun, you get all of that, but everyone was in full retreat. There was no follow-up on it, and just panic on the side of Titans Reloaded. Johnny takes down Ragna. Dark is completely isolated out of the fight, and Listemix hoping to delay and deny any more kills, but Smokebreak do not care about the cage. It's open season for Smokebreak, wiping everybody off the table, and that is their team fight, and that will likely be the game.
I mean, it's just good control, and realistically, if you're looking at Smokebreak, and if we're having a discussion, you know, I'll even go back to prior, because I've mentioned that I believed Smokebreak to be favored here, and unless Dark goes absolutely insane and does something that I've never seen a Bender capable of doing, should be pretty solidly won. The thing that makes them such an impressive team and makes this win just as impressive is factoring in everything that went wrong for them, right? Like, First Blood goes the other way. You talk about ganks, the first few go the other way. Gold Furies, all of them go the other way. I mean, it just feels like if you line up those, this should never have been a game that was even close. But Smokebreak were just farming better, right? The fact that you were able, and you had mentioned this, you lose 3 Furies and you're making up all of that thousands of gold just elsewhere on the map. I mean, that's insane to be able to do. And that's one of the strengths and maybe the power that Smokebreak brought into this more than anything, is the control on the map outside of things. It did not matter what the early game meant. Admittedly, a lot of the objectives that should have meant stuff didn't matter. They just worked through it. Johnny goes absolutely insane in terms of presence. I think finding very well targeted kills as opposed to getting like a high quantity. And it just means that they get to snap that game open, and yeah, maybe take some 30 minutes, but they still get the job done at the end of the day.
Now, despite a confident start there from Titans Reloaded, they do drop the first game to Smokebreak. So we will be back with more on the post game for that. Getting into game number 2, again, round 5. This is the last life for Titans Reloaded. Can they come back, force a game 3? Find out after the break.
messing around, calling all you freaks and nerds. You're just missing what you want. My brother's going down the drain, my sister's living the dream, but everybody's singing along. It's okay, we'll all soon be gone. Hey, what's the matter with the bright red lights? Hey, in the moment when the world went blind, but everything's alright. We don't give a damn this time. My daddy was a gambling man with no strategy. Who gives a shit about him anymore? Guess we never really settled the score. Half the town screaming not in vain, the other half is fake, but everybody's singing along. It's okay, we'll all soon be gone. Hey, what's the matter with the bright red lights? Hey, in the moment when the world went blind, but everything's alright. We don't give a damn this time. Yeah! Everyone's a hypocrite. In this game we cannot win.
And then I said, that's not Bacchus, that's Bilson's mother. That one always makes me laugh. But enough about my weekend. Hey, Gormizer, what's new with you?
Just picked up my SMITE 2 Founders Edition.
Very nice.
Purchased it on my preferred gaming platform just yesterday.
Nice skin.
It's Kakademon Ymir. It comes with all SMITE 2 gods. Forever.
That's very cool, Gormizer, but that's nothing. Look at this. Night Stalker Neath and Ascension passes for 11 Alpha Launch gods. What do you think?
Geez, that is really super. How'd a nitwit like you get so tasteful?
Can't believe that Bandy prefers Chelly's Founders Edition to mine.
Very nice. Impressive. Let's see J-Max Founder Edition.
Look at that avatar, badge and title. The tasteful thickness of Tier 5 Fallen Zeusia. Oh my god, it even comes with Ascension passes for all 23 Alpha gods.
Don't be like this psycho and upgrade your Founders Edition, so you don't miss out on Night Stalker Neath, Tier 5 Fallen Zeus, and Ascension passes for the first 23 gods. Upgrade today.
Become a founder, get into the SMITE 2 Alpha today, and don't be like this psycho over here. But you can type in !access to just get access to the game. You know, if you're still on the fence, you could try out the game, and then you could just decide to upgrade if you want, right? SMITE2.com. You could get yours today. You instantly unlock access to the game. You get all of the SMITE 2 gods forever. It's the best deal across any game that you will find that has heroes, champions, gods, whatever you want to call them. We call them gods around here. And you can upgrade to the deluxe edition, get that Night Stalker Neath skin and 11 of those Ascension passes, as well as an upgrade to the Ultimate Edition. That's what I have with that Tier 5 Fallen Zeus. You get a badge, you get an avatar, you even get a nice little cheeky in-game title if you want to flex that, and 23 of those Ascension passes. And yeah, get in today, get your Founders Edition today, and play some SMITE 2. It's a great game. Good time.
Yeah, no, look, getting access, like we already mentioned !access in the chat, like you can get it. That'll give you permanent access to the game using code SMITE2 Esports when you follow that link. But if you want a, not just more, I guess not more secure, because that's not even the right way, because both of them get you into the game. One just gets you way more stuff. And I will say, And this happened to me with Smite 1, maybe even similar with you. But I got into the beta, I want to say, super early on. I remember when Aphrodite came out, or when ESET came out, things like that. And like, I played for like maybe a week and a half, got really, really addicted and dropped the $30 on the God Pack. And from that moment in like 2013, I never thought about having to buy a God ever again.
Yeah.
You could do that, but right now for Smite 2, and let me tell you, in like 5, 6, 7 years, when a God comes out and you're like, I really want to play this guy, and you just load up and they're there. Like, it's easy to take for granted just because it seems like at the time, like at that period, you're just so used to it. But like realistically, knowing that you don't have to like grind super hard to afford them, things like that, like it is really just so worthwhile.
You know what's crazy to me is like there still isn't a deal like that in like
Literally anywhere else.
any other MOBA that you would play, despite Smite doing it since since Smite 1 first came out. I'm surprised that nobody has done it, but Smite still doing it here. So go ahead, pick up your Founder series. You get all the gods forever, and you don't have to ever worry about that, like you said. So getting back into the game. Smoke Break versus Titans Reloaded, taking a look at some of the post-game stuff. You know, we talked about Johnny and his effects on the lobby, and he certainly had a great effect to the point where the team fights at the end were kind of a given at the end for Smoke Break. Despite the early map control from Titans Reloaded, they weren't actually able to push that forward at all. So heading into game 2, I mean, Titans Reloaded, you were able to get good objective control, but outside of that, where do you have to win?
Yeah, it feels like there were a lot of times where, unfortunately, for just getting the Gold Furies isn't enough, right? Even getting some of the kills isn't enough. The wins, I think, needed to be pressurized in and maybe targeted. I feel like Smoke Break, when they got a kill, they turned it into something. Even sometimes when they didn't get a kill, they turned it into something. They're invading and creating a lot of space and then stripping away the jungle from Titans Reloaded. I mean, that's the only way you're going to make up for a lot of that gold, right? And neutral camps only provide so much. And so I feel like for Titans Reloaded, that's just really the unfortunate scenario. Sometimes there were a few kills that slipped through their fingers, but more often than not, they couldn't even get their own jungle because Johnny was in there just taking as much as possible away from them. And it feels like it's such a small thing, but when you multiply that across like 6 camps and rotations, suddenly you just haven't had any time. I mean, look at poor Dark. You're 3-4 levels down because Johnny's just been taking all your farm.
I mean, do you see a composition incoming change for Titans Reloaded? They don't seem to have like done that in some of their previous matches, even the ones that they lost. It seems like their picks stay in terms of like comfort. They don't really seem to target too much, or at least in some of their previous matches. But I mean, you have to find some way to lock this down. And obviously Johnny being the effect that he was having, I'm not necessarily saying you target out the Loki, but just as far as the team fight comp goes, was like strictly in Smoke Break's favor. And I feel like you need that strong team fight comp where, sure, you get the early picks, you get the Gold Fury, like you're saying, but like if you can't actually rotate out, isolate, and get those wins in the team fight, then I mean, you're still going to have a difficult time. So are you seeing the same here as we get into picks and bans for game 2?
Yeah, I'm actually really curious to see what Titans Reloaded are going to do to adapt to this, because I feel like they are in a spot to shift some things up. Picks and bans wise, I didn't necessarily dislike their team. I liked Smoke Breaks more, but I didn't dislike what Titans Reloaded had. The Anubis maybe could have come down. I've definitely been a little more harping on him. I think his damage is good. I just think he's easily bullied by things like a Loki, and admittedly, and maybe unfortunately there for ACD, he didn't really get the opportunity to let it shine too often. So I'm curious where they'll go with it. I think the Ama was definitely a big thorn in their side, at the Ares as well. And if I was going to choose one of them, I'd say take the Ama away if possible. And again, I love
there you go.
That. Yeah, because it's just solid, right? She's so good in lane. She's got so much survivability. She's got good CC. She's got good engage. She's got good peel. It's really hard sometimes to find things that aren't good about Amaterasu, unless you take those things as like, on the dev side and literally dial them all down to the point where it's like, hey, you're CC immune for less time, or you do just way less damage, you have no time up on any of your abilities. Like, she just has a really good kit to team fight in and to control her own lane. And so as of right now, I think she's in a comfortable spot and in a really, really cozy place to be first pick. And if you're going to respond, I think, getting the Ares that was good to you last game and getting a Fenrir that I would say, outside of very specific scenarios, he is still like the number one, quote unquote, to pick up. I like what Smokebreak do in response. I just think Titans Reloaded have adapted well. And
Johnny, getting that Fenrir won't be Dark. I actually liked how Dark was playing the Fenrir early on in that first game, but
yeah.
Titans gonna lock in that on her again, and this time taking the Loki away. So you have the granted Fenrir is the one that really got taken away from them. What's interesting to me though is that Titans Reloaded, they picked Anubis last time, but they banned Anubis this time. Jingwei ban is the same for Smokebreak. They don't want to see her. But I thought that was an interesting pick. Are they afraid of Sap's Anubis if they weren't going to go Anubis, I suppose? But Baron getting locked in again. I thought Sap was just fine on the Baron. He needed a little support early on, but I mean, that's, the kind of the nature of the mages that have no means of escape.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see some of the changes. And like you said, seeing the Anubis get banned out maybe raises some questions, mainly because it leaves so many other things open. I'm really intrigued by the fact they went on her, I think over everybody else. I mean, yeah, Jingwei's banned. Maybe it's a comfort thing for Ragnar. I don't necessarily think it looked bad. It was just kind of surprising to see locked in at the very top. Loki, I think, will do well, but it comes with this asterisk on it, which is the Fenrir suffered last game because Johnny was constantly invading and stealing farms. If you're not doing that and they're equal, it's definitely going to be a different dynamic, I think, that we see in the jungle. But if they both hit level 20 in their late game build and you go for a 1v1,
no barrier to me.
Loki should be the one who's in control of that. So watching the jungle, it definitely has caught my interest, piqued my interest, mainly because seeing the two junglers swap can always create a very, 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 very different story. At the same time, maybe Smokebreak, maybe Johnny just does Johnny things and it doesn't matter, it's the same story. I'm also really excited to see Zeus. I feel like I never get to see Zeus in any games that I get to watch, so this is actually really fun. He's got so much. I mean, good damage, good stuns. Admittedly, he is easy to sit on. He is easy to bully. So there's going to be some troubles, I think, in mid for Titans Reloaded, but nothing more that you would experience maybe as the Anubis. So realistically, this is just nothing short of exciting for him.
Yeah, would not be surprised to see Johnny take some extra looks at mid to try to sit on that Zeus for sure. But Umoja also getting the pickup. Umoja, one of the gods that saw some slight nerfs, particularly to her slows. So I'm curious, Umoja, I don't think those nerfs would really do much to actually affect her ability to have a large presence in the game. But I am curious. We do get your Bologna gore on the side of Smokebreak, so you get a little bit of that action. But Bologna versus Amaterasu, I think, still kind of leans one way, and not on your Bologna.
No, as much as I love the Bologna, it doesn't line up maybe as well. I will give it the credit where credit is due, and that it is Benko playing the Bologna. So I feel like I've been down on her in competitive a lot the last few weeks, and it's mainly because most of the time I've seen her locked in, she's been thrown into the jungle for one reason or another, and hasn't really been able to do too much. Most of the other junglers in the game just do what she does, but better. So throwing her in the jungle, she just always felt like she was lackluster. Having her in solo, I mean, admittedly against Ama, really what you need to be able to do is just survive, and you can typically do that. Once you hit level 5 as a Bologna, you've got a lot of survivability. There's definitely an avenue if you get ahead where you can find a lot of control, but like you said, outside of maybe some jungle intervention, I don't know if I expect too much happening on the right side of the map until they get to those late game builds. Then suddenly we're talking about late game changes. I mean, rotations and everything that these two gods can bring is kind of insane. When you think about, the ability to silence people, or disarm people, I should say, for the Bologna is really, really huge up against things like the Loki, a Zeus, and the On Her. And so it does create some opportunities for him late game.
Titans Reloaded, they had looked towards that duo side invade and then immediately abandoned the protocol. So they won't get that cheeky early invade kill that they got at the start of the first game. And honestly, even if they did, it didn't really do much for helping them extend themselves. So for me, the big thing for Titans Reloaded is, what do you do after the objective? How do you respond after you actually collect those objectives? And can you prevent Smoke Break from taking over again? Oh my god, I silenced on this Ares. So much early damage. God, I love that god so much. He just... Dude, Ares is like, you know, just throw a chain, throw a flames. Like, you're just dead. You're just dead. Insane.
And I'll, like, getting to watch it is, like, I mean, it's just as good, right? Being able to see, like, just... I don't know. There's a catharsis to watching chains connect.
Uh-oh. Well, yep. That's right. Lightning bolt to the face. Sap, you hung around and you found out real quick. Early frag for Titans Reloaded. Kind of going the same way as it did. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar story here, but can you actually lock down Johnny? Make sure you're keeping at least some tabs on him with the effect that he's been able to have in the lobby. Still, you like the early picks. A little look over towards that solo side, actually. A lot of damage done. Everybody going to pull off. Just too much risk there. Moving forward, you don't have the minion advantage at all. They're pushing him in the lanes again. Kind of winning those lane battles like they were at the start of the last game, Gore.
And admittedly, it's this farm that is... their strengths, right? If you ignore the first blood, which is kind of difficult to do because it changes a lot, especially in mid. I think it gives a huge amount of control over to the Zeus. But outside of that, like, first off, Benko, at the beginning of the game, proxied a wave behind the tier 1 of Titans Reloaded, and then immediately went in to invade the jungle and was able to hit level 2 off that, letting Johnny take all of the camps on their side of the map instead. And so you got a little bit of tower push, you got to strip away a little bit from Titans Reloaded super early on, and you still got the same amount of farm overall that you needed to maintain level with less Simics here. And seeing that translate to the first one to hit level 5 in the game, right? Being able to find that kind of control and play aggressive. I'm actually really impressed with what we're seeing over in the solo side, despite the fact that I kind of thought it would be nothing overall. But I do expect at least the next few actions, especially the junglers, it's going to be in mid.
And here it is, Sap getting harassed again. That's the thing about that first blood, especially in mid, is kind of like sharks in the water. Once you can smell the blood, you just start swarming it, and you really want to push that advantage as much as you can. If you can control the strength of those rotations from the mid lane, that'll give you such a strong ability to actually push your advantage, win those lane battles a little bit more, and actually get a significant gold lead. But right now, both teams still looking for that advantage. Benko going to try to at least poke a little bit here. There's a lot of damage done, though, hitting the hammer. We'll have to take out that wave. And no problem on the side for the solo lane for Titans Reloaded. Not any kind of distinct advantages like we saw in the first 5 minutes of the last game for Titans Reloaded, where they got those early kills, they got an early gold fury. This time, those picks are not coming as easily. Smoke Break aren't really giving them those free kills with the early push that they had like they did in the last game. Here's the blink hit, of course. You speak and say, yeah, they're not as aggressive. Then you have a blink ult, force the beads out.
Yeah, really, honestly, you just get classic maybe Ares in that moment. Nothing too crazy. I'm really excited to watch this emoji. I feel like, we haven't seen as much as I would have expected, given how prominent of a god she was in, SMITE 1 competitive. I also feel like in the right hands, she changes the pace of the game so heavily into her favor. But it depends on the team fight, it depends on the engage, and I think a lot of those moments haven't really come to fruition just yet.
Actually, really nice pullback there from Smoke Break. Recognizing the push as soon as it happened. The Moja walls come up. Try to give a little bit of space for them to actually get out of that team fight. They did not like how that one looked, and Smoke Break, they pulled off, bought time for the rotation. You saw the or the first abilities pop and they didn't get the damage they wanted out of it, then Smoke Break immediately counter on them, and you didn't get the presence you actually wanted in the duo lane on that push. And that's the effect. Like, Smoke Breaker just kind of like out-minding you on some of these plays that you try to do if you're Titans Reloaded, where it just feels like they've got a beat on what you're trying to do and kind of out-calming you that way.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think that really separated them in game 1 as well, is just seeing the rotations from Smoke Break, the presence from Smoke Break. I mean, like, why is Johnny here on top of Dark? Like, what did you, there's nothing over here for you to grab other than this kill. But that's why it's working so well for him.
Yep, and has it popped Johnny, that kill was going to happen all day. Loki had no escape, and this is not looking good for Titans Reloaded. Zeus ult is not going to save you. Johnny will take down Icy, and things continue to go Smoke Break's way in terms of those team fights, the little moments, like you said, Dark just getting caught really with your pants down, and cannot afford to do that against Smoke Break. You're giving him an inch, and I mean, they're taking the whole ruler on you. This is difficult for Titans Reloaded. They want this fight, they want their camp, really is all they want. Baku tried to zone them out, it's not doing enough here. Honor having to impale him. Ragnar just hoping for a little bit of space. Not gonna get the camps that you want though, and they continue to get harassed by Smoke Break all around the map. Even here, feel like every time we go over and look at solo lane, we see Benko getting the better in the solo lane. So things aren't really working out right now early on in the small things here for Titans Reloaded.
Yeah, and if you honestly, I think the thing that maybe highlights it the most is the jungle difference. Luckily, Dark has leveled up to 7, so it doesn't look as bad as it did a second ago when I looked down, but Johnny's like 2.5 levels up, right? He's gonna hit 10 before you see Dark hit 8. And that happening this early on, I mean, last game I got to mention a 3-level lead in the jungle. It was when Johnny was 16 and Dark was 13, so like there was at least more time spent on field. This is just good play all around from Smoke Break, and admittedly, it's really good presence from the jungle of all things. Johnny has 3 buffs wrapped around his belt. He's just everywhere right now.
He's everywhere. He's halfway to his second item. Hasn't even started for Dark. You're getting chained out. I don't know if the water's going to help you too much. Does at least get you back, but that's going to be more camp time lost, more lane time lost. Yeah, I mean, Titans Reloaded. Now you're not even like, you're not even winning those small fights like you were in game 1. Now you're just kind of getting boxed out everywhere, and you're trying those cheeky invades to steal the buffs, but I mean, do you have an idea of the map presence on where everybody is? Or are you just getting greedy in some of these situations? If you're Johnny, you can get as greedy as you want with the way it's been going, although the level lead is slightly coming back for Dark, so that is not as effective for him the more he's been rotating around.
Yeah, realistically, I think the presence right now from Smoke Break, and what's maybe impressive is that it's been less kills, right? There's only 3 on the board. There's no Furies like last time.
3K lead,
and yet, yeah, it's a bigger gold lead than we saw either team get the first time around. And it's just from invades. It's from poking people out and stepping forward. I mean, I think I've seen Johnny controlling more of Titans Reloaded jungle than I've seen Dark controlling Titans Reloaded jungle. That's a tongue twister, it feels like.
You got
just the presence from this Fenrir over this Loki. And maybe it's the earlier start, right? I mean, going for a Transcendence early on for Loki, while it feels good, you're spending time stacking to get your stacks. Meanwhile, Johnny kind of just came out of the game rushing and is still playing incredibly aggressive, forcing Dark to just ult away to stay alive.
2 ults were actually forced out too. The Amaterasu ult coming through, and not how you wanted this game to go at all. Constantly pushed back, and Listemics was hoping that Amaterasu could be the advantage, taking the advantage away from Smoke Break, but Smoke Breaker still outplaying you, getting outplayed by Benko in there, and now you're going to try to dump everything and push the advantage that you have. But can you get the kills? You're losing health a lot. AC will take down Ice Silence. but Umoja forced out of the fight, barely staying alive. And Zap in a little bit of trouble. God, Zeus 3 will survive, but will you? Because it looks like they really want you, and I don't know if you're going to be able to escape on the Baron SMITE. Just avoiding a lot of it. Well, this is about as good as the Jukes can get. You survive as long as you can. Ragnar will finally lock you down. And Titans Reloaded is the best look they've had so far in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, small amounts of kills, but realistically, the impact they could have, the opening they could provide, is the biggest deal, though you need to be careful because you've got a huge rotation coming your way if your Titans Reloaded.
Another fight, smoke break. Want to get that trade right back. Something they were so good at doing in game number 1 was responding immediately after those team fights, even after losing an objective. Another team fight as jump right into it. Johnny, no problem, but the ult gone for Fenrir, and it's a full rotation, almost a full rotation over to this duo side. They may have caught one isolated, but no. Dark forced to ult out, and that's been a lot of defensive ults for Titans Reloaded, really wanting to protect the little bit that they were able to get, right? You don't get a lot in terms of reducing the gold lead that Smoke Break had, but you did chip at it a little bit. So an important fight and important to stay alive there, and they do.
I love that. Doug just now pointing out, by the way, every single member of Titans Reloaded has beads, and they have the Purification Talisman on top of it. Like, they are absolutely frightened of the CC, and admittedly for good reason. I think Smoke Break have a ton that they could change this fight with. I mean, you look at Benko, Johnny, Sap, and Silenced. Every single one of those ultimates is absolutely worth the beads. And so having that much, I like that they're going for it. And you kind of have a double safety net. But with Fenrir and the Purification Talisman, both, you know, the beads being down, sorry, not the Fenrir, the on her beads being down and the Purification Talisman on Baku being down, that's where maybe your opening comes in to get the carry. If you want to hunt someone down, he's going to be the easier target right now and has a very, very good potential, I guess, window of opportunity, specifically for Johnny to cause some trouble. Like you said, though, when that ult's down for the Fenrir, maybe not seeing him get as aggressive should be up, yeah, a little bit sooner, and is up now a little sooner than the beats come up on the other side.
Baku will drop the ult, has Zeus behind as well to support with the ult. Not going to get much more out of it. It was a lot of damage done. Will limit Eye Silence abilities to re-engage. Not that I think Eye Silence has much fear in it. During that, I mean, Smoke Break, they got the free Gold Fury. They extend their lead a little bit now, where it was just under like a 2,500 gold lead just a minute and a half ago, has now increased to a 4K gold lead for Smoke Break. And those picks and those defensive ults that Titans Reloaded were forced to use, they got zoned out. Again, you're losing that map presence. And while you didn't die, and if you're not there, there's not much you can do, and you'll just lose more of that farm. So it will come down to the next really team fight for Titans Reloaded. Can you actually force Smoke Break out and get a little bit more of your map presence back, where you haven't really had much of it at all as we approach the 14th minute?
Yeah, they've dwindled a little bit of the experience lead down. That's pretty much it overall.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like you said, I'm also really kind of waiting with bated breath to see what the next team fight for Titans Reloaded looks like. If they even get a true team fight, it does feel like Smoke Break have been doing a really good job of isolating 1 to 2 people, killing them off, and then forcing Titans Reloaded to just make a decision. What are you going to do with 3? I'm thinking of the Fire Giant in the last game, where you had 3 people, but you're in this awkward spot where if you don't fight the Fire Giant, they just win if they get it, or at least get enough control that it feels like they win. And if you do fight the Fire Giant, then you're fighting a 3v5. Now you have to be very careful. You have to use these beads every opportunity that you get, because Smoke Break are looking for CC left and right.
Oh,
and unfortunately, it just keeps coming.
They got, well, Baku tries to ult to try to stop the push, but the flood goes the other way. Eye Silenced, picks one, and Titans Reloaded, not how they wanted things to go. You lose that Pyromancer. It will go the way here of Smoke Break, and this is exactly where Smoke Break want to be. The way Swiss has gone for them, had some tough matchups, playing against Team Risk and Mockingbird, not even being able to take a game against them. Now, your back's against the wall after you lost 2 straight matches in round 5, and you are taking it to Titans Reloaded. but try to survive, move on to the next stage. Titans Reloaded, you have your last life, you're in Swiss, and you have not even been able to find the kind of presence you had in game 1. So not only getting demoralized after you felt like you did some things right in that first game, now nothing seems to be going right. You take a scant victory out of, 1.5 of these 15 minutes have gone Titan Reloaded's way. It's just not working out for them. More and more, the longer this game goes, the more in control Smokebreak are.
And it just doesn't feel like there's going to be a lot of openings for them really in the next available minute. I mean, yes, you can step up to this Gold Fury when it respawns. Do you really want to commit to the Gold Fury while, I mean, you're this far behind, especially with Fire Giant, on the board and
3 beads are down.
So yeah, it just feels like you have a minute, and this next minute, it's Smokebreaks to determine what they want to do with it.
They've done a great job avoiding that Zeus ult, and then here's a response. You'll get 1 pull, but, oh no, maybe. Okay, Johnny actually got forced out. Some good back and forth. It didn't matter though. And they're just like that. The gates open. Johnny gets the kills. Smokebreak take control again. More and more. Johnny fully confident. Gets beezed out of the ultimate. A lot of pokes here for Ragnar. They turn it around on him. Dark will get the kill on Johnny. Maybe a little greed there for Johnny.
Yeah, a little greed. But a little greed, sometimes it goes a long way. This time it didn't, but sometimes it does. Unfortunately, gets punished. Admittedly, if I just got 2 kills in mid off the back of the aggression, like, ACD is the one who dropped the ult first. Like, that was Titans Reloaded, I want to say, looking for an engagement originally, and then it falling apart. If I got 2 kills off of that, I'm probably going to play a little sloppy afterward. I'm going to play a little greedy and get maybe too aggressive. Especially when you see things, it's such a small moment there.
I mean, that was his first death the entire match. So.
It was, yeah, also, yeah, probably not too strung up about it. But also little things like Benko using the disarm, and it saves the tower from going down and right. And, like, there's something to be said about the damage on the tower. Like, it's permanent. That tower is incredibly low. It's going to go down eventually. It's going to be easy. But it's not gone yet, which means that gold is still not in the pockets of Titans Reloaded. And even small things like that, like, it just hurts. It just sucks because there's so much that you keep doing and you keep doing right. But little plays, sometimes big plays, that keep going on the side of Smokebreak have changed this game so dramatically and so heavily in their favor. There's not really too much, again, for Titans Reloaded to do, except maybe step up for a big team fight, even when they're not feeling confident.
And Baku just hasn't been able to zone with this Umoja, like I think Titans Reloaded were hoping for. I think they were hoping to either be able to swing things in the team fight their way. A couple of those ults have, again, it's been all defensive. Even this defensive ult delaying the 2v3, which only feels inevitable for Johnny, who has had his way, eaten his meal, and nice and full, but Johnny has a bottomless appetite, continues to wreak havoc. Nice support there on the duo side, and Titans Reloaded more and more, losing control of it, getting close to a 10k goal lead. But they do get that tower on the other side, comes a little too late for them. And another Gold Fury will drop over here to Smokebreak, and that will get all of that gold right back.
It gives all of that, maybe and then some, right? Sprinkle a little extra change into your pockets.
Why not?
And realistically, and I feel so bad for Titans Reloaded, because if ACD gets spotted, even just a little bit of vision, you've got a Neath ult coming your way. And that might just be another death for anybody that it's going to connect with. It doesn't matter if it's ACD, it could be Baku, could be Dark. But the Neath ult, if it comes through, it's going to cause so much trouble. And that's one of the reasons I love seeing this Neath get locked in, is that ever-present threat to just be there, be global, be present. We don't get to see it just yet, but I won't be surprised if it comes through soon.
Silenced had ulted earlier, forced 2 beads out of the play. Benko comes in, drops, and will actually force everybody out. Meanwhile, barely surviving over here is Ragnar. Actually gets the edge of that impale, and that's, woo, Neath dashes out. It doesn't matter. You ran in, or not leap, or leap, excuse me, not dash. Doesn't matter. You still died. I still like the effort, though, to try to avoid that Amaterasu ult, and that will be another tower. Actually, the first tower. I thought they got another tier 1 elsewhere. It just feels that's how dominant Smokebreak have been. Another one. Try to get out. This has not been going Titan Reloaded way. And I mean, man, Johnny over here, what a match he's had. Trying to get Smoke Break out of Swiss. And it's been working well for them so far.
Yeah, and ultimately trying to go further than that, right? Like, not just like, hey, let's be done with Swissy. Skipping stage 3 entirely, right, with the way this format works, going straight to the playoffs, giving yourself a little bit of downtime to not have to compete every weekend, right? A couple weekends to yourself, but more importantly, being just one step closer to earning a spot to Vegas to come to LAN, things like that. Like, that's realistically what Smokebreak are looking at here, and what they are trying to control more than anything is their fate in that regard. And unfortunately for Titans Reloaded, while it doesn't necessarily mean that they lose a shot, it is getting increasingly difficult every second this game goes on a little longer. And a lot of that is just Smokebreak, again, playing incredibly well. I mean, looking at the farm, looking at the jungle control. I'm really curious.
Almost everybody up on goals per minute, too. Look at that. Jeez.
And level, wow, yeah, no, pretty much everything. If your support, the good news is for Titans Reloaded, we saw this, I think, once last week. The support is still lower than a few members of Titans Reloaded, so that's a good sign. The downside is the support for Smokebreak is still out farming now your jungler and your carry, which is not exactly where you want those two to be. I mean, they are some of your pivotal roles. If you're looking at it, I mean, level parity. Silenced is level 17, which is the same as Ragna. You need the On Her to do a little bit more, especially with how prioritized it was. It was, what, their second pick overall? It was third, I think, or fourth, I should say, in the draft. It's not really getting anywhere near as much done. Yeah, it's a comfort pick. I think it's a good carry, but it's just been in this unfortunate spot where it hasn't gotten the ability to do anything this game.
In there, Dark just kind of zoned out after burst of damage. Smokebreak showing that it doesn't really matter who they pick. You can take Amaterasu away. That's fine. You can ban Anubis even though they didn't pick Anubis last time. Get chained. Try to beads. Oh, what an impale to respond. Hang on a second. Some support on the other side. I silence. It's silenced. Smokebreak gotta leave this one quickly. On Her almost dying, but Ragnar turning around, getting the impale stun onto I Silence, buying time for the rest of the team to get there. And elsewhere on the map, they're not winning as heavily. But still, you'll take any victory where you can get it. Your Titans Reloaded, still losing another side. As Johnny happily will leave that solo lane. So much work to be done on Titans Reloaded, though.
Yeah, the good news is, you know, I've mentioned the experience deficit. That's going to close up because everybody on Smokebreak has hit 20, save for the support, which means you're guaranteed to catch up. There's no way you're not going to. It's just making sure that the stuff around that matters. And I'm looking at the builds. You know, we had mentioned it and actually hadn't talked about it too much. Like, Johnny has leaned a little more into tanky items in the last two, right? Cooldown rate specifically in the breastplate, but just survivability being picked up towards the end. Whereas Benko, and I love this because this is a build that was very popular for Bologna in the past, and it works really well. It plays off of itself. Getting the Shogun's Kusari, being able to pick up things that just feel solid for you as a god. I love the right side of the map for Smokebreak, and then you look down and it doesn't really get much better for them. I'm seeing right now it's a tier 1, but with Golden Hands you could probably afford a little more. Sap 7 being up over the Zeus, so that damage is going to make a big difference, even though Zeus has maybe more quote-unquote burst. And the same thing for the Neath. You're seeing a good burn through and kind of slow penetration build for Ragna. But the burst that Neath is going to provide, whether it's an ultimate or a weave or just a single spirit arrow, it just feels better. You're in a better spot. You've got the gold. Your team just gets a gold fury as well. Like, you're in such a good position to control the builds, to have more power spikes overall than what Titans Reloaded have, and not to mention the fact that it's going to provide you a lot more vision on map because you're going to just blanket be able to afford more wards.
Next team fight, Titans Reloaded have to find a way to keep drawing this out as long as possible. You talked about the experience getting shored up, but Smokebreak have continued to increase their gold lead. Now up a heaping 12K. And while that starts to matter less a little later, you still got to survive for probably, like, you got to find a way to get 10 more minutes out of this game and that's going to require those picks, or maybe trying to win this team fight. Fire Giant got the look. Yamoja ult coming out for Baku. The Baron SMITE ult as well, going to force the beads and move them out. But meanwhile, on the backside of this team fight, High Silence took a lot of damage, pops the ult. Benko takes down Ragna, and a lot of damage off the table now for Titans Reloaded, trying to get a kill. E-Crow picks up another one. Benko will finally fall, but not before they lose a couple more on Titans Reloaded. Taking a lot of damage. Johnny online. The Fenrir, the dog, getting them, killing them, and completely demoralizing this Titans Reloaded side.
And I mean, that's about as free as you could ask. In fact, I'm surprised to see they're not pushing maybe a little harder. With Fire Giant up, that's probably the reason why. I mean, we're 26 minutes in, but you still got towers, phoenixes to go through, which means if we're looking at it, that is not a game-ending play, but it very well could have been. I mean, that is just clean, and you get it. You call the separation so perfectly in the fight. Benko jumps into the back, and Benko distracts Free. Benko dies, but Benko controls the fight. Like, it makes it so easy for the team because now you're in a 4v2. You get to control that. You have no problem. I love this because they're holding the Fire Giant kindly for Benko to respawn. And then while they're going in that fight, I mean, like you said, Benko, you trade out your life, you end up going down. But you've now put them in such a bad, Titans Reloaded that is, in such a bad position. They've lost a couple members already, and guess what? They've got mobility. They've got plenty of mobility to chase you down. That tier 2, it was never a safe haven. It pretended to be a safe haven. There was no chance it was going to be a safe haven. And so it's such an easy dive for them. You get that kill. You get a full-on deicide. You get the Fire Giant. We are talking defense territory exclusively, I think, for Titans Reloaded at this point. If you are Smoke Break, I don't care that there are tier 2s on the map because you're going to shred them in an instant, right? The things that matter are the Phoenixes, and can Titans Reloaded hold on to them? Because otherwise, you get caught out. I mean, like, even this, I don't know if I like Dark standing out this far. I feel like this is almost a death sentence. Despite the fact that you're a Loki, you should be able to get out, but it's because you have to use your ult, right? Just like that. And so it's these moments. Yeah, you haven't been able to play aggressive, and now you're still feeling that. You don't get to play aggressive. Johnny's on his own, and there's 4 people here. You can't win that fight. He would walk away with 2 kills.
Yeah, not with the breastplate Noni. No, you're definitely not getting him. And oh man, it's so funny because like we haven't. That was like what, the second major team fight that we really saw, and like it was just so defensive. Titans Reloaded. They didn't want to drop bodies. And this is a lot committed just to get sapped out of the lobby for a little bit. But they committed, what, 2 ults to that? You had Zeus ult and Yamoja ult now down. Mega will come back up. Titans Reloaded, though, I guess you'll do anything. You'll commit anything to try to whittle this down. Everyone almost fully kitted out now on Smoke Break. It does feel like it comes down to this very last team fight. I mean, it absolutely has to. And you lose this one for Titans Reloaded, you're out of Swiss. We'll be moving on for Smoke Break. Like you said, moving out to a sold-out Vegas crowd. Ekrum turns around, actually gets the kill because Johnny's here and taking everybody down with him, doing tons of damage on that knee. Ekrum still delivers the death blow to Ragna, and you can't do anything about it. I don't think Johnny's health dropped even an inkling as Baku goes down. And that is absolutely disastrous for Titans Reloaded, but a really cherry on top for Smoke Break with how they played this game. They played excellent on the objectives, excellent in the team fights, just straight out outplayed Titans Reloaded in every single phase of Smite. And now they just get to move through. They don't need to worry about no Phoenix. There is no protection for you. Johnny has his way and will completely demoralize, annihilate this Titans Reloaded line, if there even was one. As, well, wow, exactly. What do they say, Gormizer? Close one. Not really.
Yeah, you hit him with the close one, lol, JK, GG, right at the very end. The weird thing about it, I feel like, and maybe it's just because they didn't have sap, the numbers weren't exactly where they wanted them. I definitely think Smoke Break could have ended the game about 10 seconds ago, just walking into the Titan room. Instead, they opt for the tier 2, they opt for the mid Phoenix as well. And now they're just going to play with their food and get more kills.
I guess, when the feast is on, eat as much as possible, put yourself in a food coma, and enjoy the evening, because Smoke Break, you're going to be moving on. One step closer to getting to Vegas. Titans Reloaded eliminated from Swiss. Smoke Break take them down 2-0. An excellent way to do it as well here in round 5.
And look, when you're talking about this, I'll focus on game 2 first, just because it was just so devastating. Game 1, we talk a little bit about the fact that there's a lot of back and forth. A lot of it is the Gold Furies. I think that's stolen Gold Fury at first for Titans Reloaded, and then just control over the Furies and maybe a couple steals again a little bit later. It goes well for them and keeps the game even, elongates it, and lets it feel like they are in the match just as much as Smoke Break. I don't know if there was a moment. I mean, maybe the first 3 minutes for Titans Reloaded definitely felt like they were tied. But other than those moments, Smoke Break was just finding so much control, whether it was ganks. I think they even got first blooded this game, and I've never seen a team shrug it off that easily. I mean, the Zeus played aggressively, but outside of the one shining moment and maybe some of the damage throughout the game, didn't have a whole ton going for them. Same could be really said for any of them. It feels like when you're at a deficit, it's so hard to look good. And unfortunately, when you're at a surplus, much like Smoke Break was, it's so easy to then make those style highlight plays, which we get plenty of. I mean, Benko diving people like it's nothing. You've got Johnny at 11-1-6. Sometimes you don't really need to speak any further than that. But Echrome, Sap, Silence, I feel like everybody at some point or another here for Smoke Break really got to put their hand on the ball and really got to show what they were capable of, despite the fact that Johnny maybe was the last hit king and the true killer for the squad. I think that every single person on Smoke Break was just present, and you get 17,000 damage from the Zeus, you get 20,000 damage from Dark on the Loki. It just didn't really come to matter because it didn't really result in anything big after the fact. You didn't get the Gold Furies, you didn't get the Fire Giant, you didn't get your own bus half the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, even in game 1, when more of that was going their way, they were still losing. They couldn't really maintain any kind of gold lead that they were getting, because if they were winning the jungle objectives, they were losing in lane. Or even with the jungle buffs, they were still losing to Johnny, who just didn't care and would just invade all the time. And this time, I don't even think Johnny invaded half the time that he did in game 2 like he did in game number 1. But I mean, really impressive stuff overall from Smoke Break. Also, some of those moments where Titans Reloaded, they wanted to take a team fight. They wanted to push. They wanted to rotate. They had the jungler come over to duo right. Smoke Break immediately aware of it. They don't let them zone them, and they don't really push the issue until they have numbers. They call the rotation over, they wait, they hide in the grass, then they attack, then they turn it right back around on Titans Reloaded. It's just even in the small, the calling was really good from Smoke Break, and really impressive round 5 for them.
And like you said, at this point, the end of Swiss, this week, everything's 2-2 for everybody, whether it's NA or EMEA. Winners go to playoffs, losers go to the last chance qualifier, right? So it's not like it's the end of Titans Reloaded. We'll still see them actually at this rate, sooner than we'll see Smoke Break. But it does mean that you have to go through a lot more work to get to the same position that you're now in. So that's a big win for Smoke Break.
Well, let's take a look at that bracket here for EMEA. We have 2 more in round 5. And as you see, Bills Goons 2-0. Discípulos del Chaos. I swear I'm getting that wrong somehow, but Tithonic versus Threat Level Midnight. I believe that Bills Goons match actually ended in I think that was the forfeit for Discípulos del Chaos. So Bills Goons just move on through the forfeit. Tithonic versus Threat Level Midnight will be tomorrow on the broadcast, and we'll have the NA side a little later today. But yeah, I mean, this is how the bracket has fallen, and I think the expected result for you as far as Smoke Break goes, right?
Yeah, expected, although it was definitely a different path. Game 2 was much more in line with what I expected, but after game 1, I was kind of thinking we were in for something maybe a little longer. I think Smoke Break maybe realized something similar and decided to say no to that as much as they could. The draft was really solid. I think that you get to see this team. In the past, any team that had Johnny on it was almost always like hey, look at Johnny, Johnny's doing well, and it didn't really matter who was there. I think in this squad, you've got such a solid surrounding cast, in Benko, Sap, Silenced, and Echrome, that Johnny ended up, I even said it, he was 11-1-6. It looks incredible. Johnny doesn't get 11-1-6 if Benko isn't zoning 3 people around one of the team fights by himself, right? If you don't have those huge play moments coming from everyone else. I just think Smokebreak, there's a reason they were the number 2 seed, and again, it was a surprise to see Mockingbird take a win over them last week. So this was much more of a return to form. It also means that because of what we've seen and the paths a lot of these teams have taken, playoffs gets a lot more interesting with some of the teams that are there and waiting, because I genuinely don't know what we're going to expect from it.
I mean, that's the funny thing about Swiss into playoffs is a lot of times you'll see a result go one way in Swiss and then completely turn its head in the playoffs. And it's part of the reason I love the Swiss format so much, because you do get that dichotomy of like, okay, playoff time comes in, and how are you going to play? And if Smoke Break brings some of that energy that they brought in this match to the playoffs, you know, they might put some respect on that 2 seed that they had. So excited to see though how they'll do if they do end up playing against Team Risk or Mockingbird again. But we will have a break, and it will be a bit of an extended break since we don't have our next EMEA match with Bill's Goons getting the forfeit win. So we'll have the NA side a little later at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So you guys can get up for a little bit, take a little bit of a break, but make sure you're back at 3 p.m. Eastern to watch the NA side of round number 5. We'll have that for you afterwards. We'll see you soon.